don't interact at all means they don't like or comment anything like
Yeah,
that.
they're on Facebook and they read stuff.
Oh yeah.
And they really don't do much. Maybe with their friends a little bit, but certainly not pages.
Right. So that's hard for us to measure then. If you're posting things and people are reading it, you may think it's a total waste, but maybe it's sinking in, or maybe they're doing something with it. Who knows? So who do you find, Eric, at CMU that engages most? Is it new students, or who are the people that really like to interact with the university?
We've seen, and from our perspective, and also from the many different facets of the university. I mean, the main campus has a Facebook page, and alumni has a Facebook, and athletics, and so on and so forth. And we've seen across the board that current students and alumni are highly engaging, especially alumni. We found that the Alumni Association has done a great job. They'll post a picture of something in town or something like that and say, hey, do you remember when you ate here, or your favorite ice cream, or something like that? And they just get a ton of interaction through likes and comments and all these stories. And we've seen that through Global Campus as well. It's a little bit more difficult because we don't have a physical, an actual campus to work with, especially for a lot of online students. But we found that a lot of current students, alumni, will talk about their experiences in the classroom, or maybe as an online course or something like that. They really want to share about what they're experiencing as a student. And the key and the challenge for us in particular is also connecting the pieces between those current students and prospective students and getting that conversation started, which, as we all know, social media is a two-way conversation. It's not, as you mentioned, right from the get-go, it's not a one-way communication anymore. We're expected to respond and communicate and have those conversations with your audience, and that varies depending on your Facebook page and your organization.
So do you think since the alumni engage more, it's because they've already gone through school and they feel a much closer connection with the university?
Yeah, I think that's a really valid point. I think that with a lot of organizations, they have that passion for it. So we see a lot of alums from CMU that want to comment and make some great remarks about their time, their experiences. They'll say, I graduated in 1966 and we really love living in this hall or this professor or something like that. And I think that across the board for nonprofits or for other business organizations, there's a product or a service or some experience that they're tied to at an emotional level. I think that's what helps to prompt them to start that conversation and share and say, hey, this is a part of me because of my experiences with it, or because I like it, or support it in some degree.
And they probably also have more confidence because they've been there and they know the students or those that have interacted. And someone new might be sending a note out, not knowing who's reading it or what the audience is, etc. So has anyone here had an experience where you had a great idea and thought a lot of people would engage with it, but there was nothing that happened, that fizzled?
I'm sure I have.
You sure?
I think we all have.
Posting 3-4 times a week, I'm sure. Lots of stuff. Sometimes calls to action. A lot of that's trial and error with calls to action, because you're actually asking people to do something. You're specifically asking them to do something with what you're presenting. So sometimes I'll try, an emotional approach, because people want that emotional connection. They want those moments, especially in videos. So when I make posts, sometimes I'll say, these are our kids. They're on the waiting list. You can make an impact in their life. What are you going to do? And nobody will comment on it. And then the next week, I post something that's very similar, and we get, 15 comments, 20 comments. So I think some of that comes down to time of day and who sees it, really. And yeah, definitely, it's a lot of trial and error. That's why you post every day. That's why you post 3 to 4 times a week, or whatever fits your schedule and your budget, because you never know which one is going to be the one that brings that that key person in, who's going to bring in 50 more volunteers. Or you don't know which post is going to grab that donor who says, oh, I love that, here's $30,000. You don't know which one's going to work.
That's true.
You have a framework to go on. And, just trial and error. And if it fails, move on,
Yeah, just keep trying.
Yeah, don't get stuck. Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you think after a couple of people have commented, it's easier for everybody else to jump in? Like the first couple take a little more guts? So, okay.
Yeah, and just through practical experience, it seems like there's that icebreaker that needs to happen. That you got to get that first person to make that comment, and then it can kind of snowball from there. And there are many examples of that from really all facets, that you just got to have that first person that stands out and says whatever they're going to say. I mean, and that's the thing with social media as well, is you can't necessarily control what they're going to say. You can maybe try to steer the conversation in a specific direction, and I think a lot of businesses are apprehensive, and organizations are really apprehensive that if we try to get people to interact, what are they going to say? Are they going to say something negative about us, or are they going to say something positive? And how do we make it so they only say positive things? And the reality is you can't. It's not something that you can, I mean, I guess the option would be to delete comments, but that's not something I would ever recommend by any means.
Just look at Nestle's debacle a couple of years ago. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
So it's really one of those things where this conversation has got to start, and once it gets going, I think, and I've kind of likened it to rolling this giant ball on a hill. You've just got to get it just to the right point where you can get that enough of a push that it starts rolling and spinning from there. And like what Bryson had said before, is that you can try something one week at the same exact time, and you can post the same thing the week later, and you'll get a totally different result. And that's just the unpredictable nature of social media, because not everybody is on Facebook or Twitter or any of these networks at the same time every day. And you really got to find, like you said, that one person, that right person that's going to start that conversation and help you get to where you need to go.
Absolutely.
I've also noticed that the first couple of people set the tone to the type of conversation, and it could be negative or positive, and based on those first couple of comments, it seems to go down one direction. So you hope that the first couple are something positive, because if the first couple say, oh, this is lame, I don't like it, then others will probably feel more timid to counter what other people have been saying. So it's probably just a social nature in general. So tell me a little bit more about engagement in terms of, is this something that your bosses look for, engagement, or is it more the number of fans? How do they measure your success in your position? And anybody?
What I've noticed is that if your fan base continues to grow, I mean, you never want it to stay at one number. Another thing they look at is, like you said, some of the interaction, but also there's a lot of times when you don't get any interaction, but they hear from somebody else, hey, I like what you had on Facebook the other day about such and such, and they tell you in person instead of interacting on the actual website. So that's what really, a lot of people look at.
Okay, so as long as it's growing and building, okay.
Yeah, at Big Brothers Big Sisters, and with my other business, what we look at is quantifiable metrics of interaction. Facebook has great analytics once your page gets to 30 fans. Absolutely incredible analytics, and we use another program called Sprout Social, which just kind of helps us compile all that data into more easily understandable numbers and charts. But yeah, we definitely look for a growing fan base. But that's not the primary goal. The primary goal is our engagement. We definitely look at the engagement, how many people have commented per month, per post, out of all our fans, what percentage of people are engaging, out of how many people see our content, how many people are engaging. That's really a big thing that we track. The growth rate of our fan base is not our main metric. It's definitely that engagement. For us, that's absolutely number one, because as a nonprofit trying to recruit volunteers and get the word out, engagement is huge. So.
Right. Yeah, you want people to be passionate about what you're saying.
Absolutely.
If they're not talking about it, they're probably not passionate about it, I imagine. So we're almost out of time for the evening. I appreciate all the comments and input from Eric, Jeff, and Bryson here. Thanks a lot for coming on the show. I did want to put in a plug for a conference we have coming up. It's called the Digitized Social Media Conference. That's going to be here in Midland at the H Hotel on September 20th. To register for that, you go to digitizedconference.com, and you'll find information about the speakers and registration information. But it's an opportunity to come here, spend a whole day with social media professionals, people from agencies, small businesses, nonprofits, and learn from people that are doing the campaigns, from the experts in the field, and connect with other professionals. Similar to the discussion we're having today, there will be keynote speakers and breakout sessions. So it's a great conference. I encourage everybody to check it out at digitizedconference.com. And thanks again for joining us here on the Digitized Show. I'm Mark DeSchweinitz, and have a great week.